Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Mario Black, and after last week's video where I did an intro on the NWSL, I wanted to start going over some foundational soccer knowledge that would be good to know for a new fan or even an older fan to brush up. I originally was going to do this all in one video, but I found out that might be an hour or two long, so I have 4 planned parts in this series. The first being an overview of players and positioning, as well as an overview of the officials. So let's get into the content. Let's get to the player positions first. Any game you see, or whenever you look up a player online, their position is generally one of these 4: forward, midfielder, defender, or goalkeeper. Players may play hybrid positions or switch it up between matches or even during matches, but they all fall under one of these categories in the end. A team fields 11 players. How these 11 players are distributed is up to the coach. The only certain is that there is 1 goalkeeper. Outside of that, you can run 10 forwards, 5 defenders and 5 midfielders, or whatever you desire. There naturally is a strategy here, and teams will construct their starting 11 based on the personnel they have, their strengths, and their weaknesses. They will also construct based on their coaching philosophy and, additional other various factors like the opposing team and other, sorts of quirks within a given match. Formations do have identifiers. The way they're identified is numerically by how many players there are in a specific line on the field. I'm going to have some examples here soon. A lot of times it's divided by position group. So you can see in my example it's a 4-4-2 formation, and my next slide will show an example of this formation. Goalkeepers are not included in the count, as there's always one of them and they play the furthest back. A lot of times formation names are based on position, but not always, and I'll have an example of that as well. And one last thing to add on is the goalkeeper is considered, their own player, they're the goalkeeper, but all the other players, the other 10 players on the field, are often called outfield players to differentiate themselves from the goalkeeper and kind of separate them. So if you hear a goalkeeper is playing like an outfield player, it means they're playing like, one of the other 10 players on the field. So here's a diagram of the field. For this, we'll look at players in a 4-4-2 formation. We'll start with the goalkeeper. There's always only one of these. They generally stick to their penalty area, but may move around and often assist the defense when the team starts moving the ball down the field. They are the only player that can use their hands, but they're limited to doing it inside their own penalty area. Goalkeepers wear a different uniform from the rest of their team to distinguish them. They also wear special gloves. If a team is trailing late, a goalkeeper may come up into the attack in specific situations to be an additional attacker. Next up are the defenders, and there's 4 of them here. Teams generally run between 3 to 5 defenders. Defenders stationed toward the middle of the field are often known as center backs. Defenders on either side of the field are often known as full backs or right back or left back, depending on which side they're on. After the defenders, there's the midfielders. There's 4 here in this chart. However, like defenders, teams will often run between 3 and 5 of them. The midfield has a lot more nuance to it. There's attacking midfielders, defending midfielders, and midfielders that can do both. They can push forward to add to the attack, or they can fall back to support their defense. Last are the forwards. Sometimes this is just one player. Some teams will run 3, sometimes even more. These players are often called strikers as well. They're naturally the ones who will often be the closest to the opposing team's net and oftentimes are the goal scorers themselves. So let's break down the responsibilities of each position, and I'm going to start here with the goalkeeper. As you might expect, the goalkeeper's job is to keep the ball out of their net. If the other team never scores, then the goalkeeper's team will never lose. It's that simple, but it ain't quite that easy. When a ball is coming toward the net, keepers will often try to punch the ball away so that the ball goes far from the net and gives the team time to regroup defensively. Keepers may try to parry the ball away, which is simply redirecting the ball away from the net. This is often a last resort or something they do when reacting to a shot and have to make a sudden movement to keep the ball out of the net. If they're able to, the ideal situation is to catch the ball since they can hold it and restart play on their own. It's not always feasible to catch the ball, though, if the ball is moving fast or they don't have time to set up for a catch. Keepers often help out their defense with positioning. They'll point things out, call things that they see. It's always important for a keeper and defenders to be on the same page so that each know what the other's doing and they can react accordingly when the other team is on the attack. Keepers can sometimes play the role of an extra defender when they have possession. You'll see teams pass the ball back to the keeper at times when they have possession in order to relieve themselves of pressure or to help assess the other team's defense and start their attack from the keeper on forward. The keeper can play a critical role on the attack, even though they're known for stopping plays. If they get a ball and get it downfield quickly, they can create a counterattack opportunity for their offense and potentially catch the other team with not enough players back in their defense. Goalkeepers are the only players that can use their hands, but they're limited in a couple of ways. They can only use their hands in their own penalty area. Outside of the penalty area, if they use their hands or arms, then it's a handball offense. They also cannot use their hands when the ball is deliberately kicked back to them by a teammate. This is a very rare infraction, but it's called a back pass infraction, and it's something I'll go over when I talk about game flow next week. Just know for now that I can't think of any time I've ever seen a back pass infraction in an NWSL game. So when a player does pass it back to the goalie with their feet, the keeper can still play it with their feet or any legal body part for that matter, just not their hands or their arms. Now let's move on to the defense. As you might expect, the defense is there to defend. They're meant to disrupt the other team's movements and prevent good scoring opportunities for the opposition. They also often block shots that are coming toward their net. If the ball never reaches the net, there's no threat in giving up a goal. Defenders are often split into two types. The first is a center back. They're generally the last line of defense before the goalkeeper and protect the middle of the field. Center backs are often the most important players on a team's defense since they protect the most dangerous areas of the field. Defenders that play the flanks are called fullbacks, or more specifically left back or right back, depending on which side they're on. As you can imagine, they defend the wide areas of play, or the flanks. They try to disrupt passes and plays from out wide that come toward the middle of the field. There is a class of these players called wingbacks that are more attacking-minded and roam all the way up and down the flank. Generally, the fullback is more defensive-minded, while the wingback is more of a jack-of-all-trades. Defenders are often taller than average, especially center backs. The defensive reason for this is that when the ball is airborne, they have a better chance of getting their head to the ball first and moving the ball away from the attacker that's trying to get their head on it. However, they can also be used on the attack. Set pieces, which are set plays that are run to restart a play, are good chances for a team to score. So a tall defender may move up to the attack to give a team an additional option to score. If the play fails, they'll either have somebody cover for them or they'll retreat quickly in an effort to stop a counterattack. Next up, let's talk about the midfielders. When in possession, midfielders are helping transition the ball into the attack. And when they're not in possession, they're helping the defense out by trying to disrupt the opposition's ball movement and attempting to turn the ball over so that they're now in possession. Many teams have a central midfielder. This player often has the play go through them when they're in possession, and they're also a key player on the defense when the other team moves the ball up the field. This is often the most important position on the field given how much they're involved in play. A lot of the best players in the world play this position. Wide midfielders are often called wingers as well, and they move the ball up and down the flanks with an eye for the attack. Oftentimes on the attack, the wingers will be up the field with the forwards and then slack back when having to defend. Wingers may even play further up and be considered forwards, and I'll go over that briefly on the next slide. Midfielders may also be split up in how far up the field they are. Some midfielders play more back and are considered defensive midfielders, while others may support more with the attack, and they're called attacking midfielders. All midfielders should be assisting with both attack and defense in a given match, but a team may play to a specific player's strength by putting him in the spot where they're better at, whether it's attacking or defense. The number 10 is also tied to many of the legends of the game. A lot of times the number 10 is an attacking-minded midfielder, and they generally play central midfield. It lines up with the idea that the central midfielder is often an important player on the team. The numbering goes way back to when all the starters were numbered from 1 to 11. These days players can choose any 1 or 2 digit number they please, but the number 10 still tends to be an attacking central midfielder out of the tradition of the number. In the last position group are the forwards. Forwards are often pretty well known on a given team because they're the ones scoring goals. They also help create scoring chances and are always active on the attack. A team running a center forward or a striker often has that player as the leading scorer on a team, or at least a player who a lot of the scoring goes through. They generally don't do much defensively. They are there to put the ball in the net any way they can. Like the number 10 on the last slide, the number 9 is often associated with these center forwards. A secondary striker plays a bit deeper than the center forward. They're more playmakers looking to distribute the ball, but they're certainly available to score goals themselves as well. If this player plays centrally, they can be the number 10 as well, just as a forward instead of as a midfielder. A lot of positions can blend across the traditional lines. Like the last slide, the winger plays the flanks and sets up scoring opportunities from the wide areas. It all depends on the team or the players they have on whether the wingers play in a forward position or more of a midfield position. Oftentimes they can kind of do a little bit of both throughout the match. Here's an example of a 4-2-3-1 formation used by the Portland Thorns in their match on August 9 against the Boston Legacy. I added the numbers on the right for reference. Earlier I had the formation going from left to right. This one is going from bottom up because I'm pulling it from a feed of the game. So Mackenzie Arnold is the goalkeeper. You can see there's 4 players in front of her. These are all the defenders. Then there's 5 midfielders, but they're split up into 2 rows. The bottom 2 are defensive midfielders, and the top 3 are attacking midfielders. Then there's Sophia Wilson as the lone forward. You can also see the example of the number 9 and 10 here. Wilson is the number 9, and she's a pure striker and one of the top goal scorers in the league and the world. Behind her is Dania Castellanos, who's the central midfielder and the number 10. It's not always the case, but a vast majority of cases, the number 9 and the number 10 will be the striker and central midfielder respectively. A lot of times the number 10 is more attacking minded as well, and Castellanos is a player who fits that mold. It's important to note that players are not bound by these strict positions. Any player can be anywhere on the field, and sometimes defenders will play up to support the attack, and sometimes forwards will come back to support the defense. Teams like to generally have players in their assigned areas so the players know where their teammates are, and it divides up the responsibility of the offensive and defensive actions of each player up 11 ways, so one player isn't having to do too much and the entire team can act as one unit. Last thing I want to talk about is the other 4 people that are very important to any given match, and those are the officials. First up is the referee. There's one referee, and I'll refer to them as the center referee to help alleviate confusion from the other 3 officials. They're the only referee in the field of play during a match. They patrol up and down the field, and they actually go in a diagonal, as you can see here, because of the next 2 officials. And those officials are the assistant referees, or the ARs. Each patrol half of the field up and down the sideline. They do not cross the halfway line, and you can see here that one is on one side of the field and the other is on the opposite side of the field as well as the opposite half of the field. The reason the center referee runs in a diagonal is because the assistant referees are closer to action on their side, and the referee can be further down the field where the assistant referee might not be able to see. Last is the 4th official. They stand between the team benches. Just imagine the benches are at the bottom below the diagram here. The bench areas are often called and generally called technical areas as well. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the responsibilities of each of the 4 officials. The center referee has the final say in a lot of things. They enforce rules, control the flow of the match, and they keep the time of the match as well. Referees wear a watch and will start it at the start of play, and they'll be the ones to call for a half to end. Center referees also issue cautions in the form of yellow cards and will send somebody off with a red card. These cards can be issued to players or any team staff if they're unruly in some way. Assistant referees are all easy to spot because they're carrying flags with them. As shown on the last slide, they go up and down the sideline. They're actually lining up with the second to last defender to enforce offside, which is a rule I'll go into detail next week, since it's one that often trips a lot of new fans up. Assistant referees also tell the referee if the ball goes out of play, since they move along the lines and have a pretty good angle of things. They can also help the ref with things they may not have seen, and even call fouls. Any call they make will involve them using their flag to make a signal. All of the officials have headsets on in the NWSL, so they can all communicate to each other at all times. The 4th official is the final piece of the officiating puzzle. They stand in between the team technical areas and get to stand next to each coach all game and listen to them yell and complain and all the fun stuff that they may hear from the coaches. You'll see the 4th official whenever the big number board comes out. They hold it over their head to show who's being substituted in and out of a match. They also display how much stoppage time there will be at the end of a given half with that number board. Fourth officials are often the admin side and make sure substitutions are done correctly to follow the rules and everything's being kept track of. They can tell the referee that someone said something that violates the rules so the referee can show them a card as well. That'll be it for today's video. Next week I'm going to talk about game flow, so anything to do with the game that's not fouls, I'm going to have my own week on fouls, which will be the week after. So I'll cover the offside rule there in some pretty good detail and hope to have some good examples for that week as well. But I wanted to start with all the basic pieces and the players and the officials. So hopefully you got something out of this. If you have any feedback, leave it below. Any questions, anything you think I can improve with, and hope everybody has a great day.